Football and Focus show teed up indoors on Battleground. I think we got Enad. No, Enad's not here. We've got Bryant Roche, News and Record. We were talking about Enad before he came in about his birthday celebration. Congratulations to Brian on his birthday yesterday. Had the celebration up the street last night at Lucky 32s. Enad was there. Others were there. So it's good to be here. Good to have you back here again. And a lot to talk about tonight. The games last week, first round of the playoffs. Before we do, let me mention what I just learned today. I came to a great conclusion today watching that TV over there before we got on board here, because they were showing back an NC State Georgia Tech game from years ago. And Johnny Evans, who does the color commentary for NC State football games, his son Daniel was playing this game from a few years back. Andre Brown was the running back, and a few other guys. Chuck Amato was the coach of all things back in those days. But they learned about the quarterback. I probably knew this before, I never really looked at that close. But the quarterback, now you're a lineman. You were a lineman playing.
I was a lineman, yeah.
So every play you had some kind of responsibility. Every play to carry out throughout the play. If I'm a receiver, I've got running back. Everybody's got responsibilities. But the quarterback, once he hands that ball off, he's got it made, man. If it's a running play, he get out of the way. I saw that and I said, man, something this guy's got a pretty good deal going there. Just hand it off, get out of the way so you don't get busted. You're in good shape. You don't go block. You're not supposed to. Some guys do occasionally. But, you just hand the ball off as a quarterback once the run play goes and get out of the way and your job's done.
Yeah, I guess in the good old days, they probably wanted you to block more than they do now, I figure.
Now they hope you just don't
don't want you to get hurt.
Don't get in the way now. But some guys still occasionally try to throw a block or two. Sometimes as quarterbacks the old days, they try to throw that shoulder block and they get their shoulders knocked out of place. But the quarterback's got a pretty good deal going. If he can complete his passes, good. If he after the handoff the running plays, he's in good shape. Now, good shape, I would say right now, if I'm not mistaken, I think I read this correctly here. Turn this, I can't read, but I can remember what I wrote down. You got the Metro 4A Conference, 4 teams remaining after the first round. That speaks pretty well to the Metro. They said going in, we got a lot of teams in. We're a power strength conference. They still got 4 teams left. That's not bad at all for them.
I think so. I think when we were looking at who was in there and who's left now, I think the teams that are left are the ones we thought would be.
And the funny thing was, last week we both agreed that Guilford County teams would go, I think, 4-7, 11 teams left. We only missed about one game. They went 5-6. We did pretty good on that. The team that did survive, we thought might not make it. I mean, they won in overtime by 1 point, so, hey, that was a close game. And I think that might be the team we really got to give the biggest salute to tonight coming in on the way in. Anyway, Southeast Guilford on the road at Reagan, win that game 46-45. Wow.
Yeah, I think that was, maybe I misspoke a little bit there. If there was a game that we were unsure about, it was that one, but it was for good reason, as we both really thought those teams would be pretty even, and it basically came down to a 2-point conversion that Southeast was able to convert. They decided to go for the win instead of, a tie there, and Earl Bates and the Southeast Falcons are still in it, and they've got a date with the #1 seed Grimsley in the next round.
Next round against Grimsley.
That's their reward for that.
Yeah, and tell you what, that win, they had to, I don't know, we'll find out. Hope they're here tonight. Hope they come in tonight. They're supposed to be here. Find out how they savored that win and kind of savored, let it soak in that victory, man. That had to be great. But then you got to get ready for, like you say, Grimsley next. #1 seed, and Grimsley's got that quarterback face on Brandon, who used to be the Southeast Guilford Middle School player back in the day. So they faced him before already a couple times since he moved to Grimsley. But still, I guess the stage is a little bit bigger this time around.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of interesting, sort of, interesting dynamic there. I mean, I know, like you said, it's not the first time it's happened. Obviously, they've played the last couple of years as well, so it's not like it's a welcoming or a homecoming or however you want to put it. But I don't know if it'll cross Faison's mind or not, what could have been or what, but
well, it probably crosses his mind. I remember playing with some of these guys back in the day. Something else that just came to my mind. This is an interesting thought. I thought about, first thought was, what if they could hire me to come in as a hired hitman and be on that Southeast line, just go get the quarterback. But then another thought hit me too. I'll take us back. Here we go on this football. This is all trying to get into focus. A lot of stuff to bring in. I have to go back to last year's Thanksgiving Day football game at Western Guilford Middle School. Used to be Guilford. We were there that Thursday. Remember the opposing team had that one lineman who was crazy? Remember the wild man? Remember that lineman? You remember him by chance?
At the old Thanksgiving early day game?
Yeah, that one
the
guy
Turkey Bowl,
on the
as you call it?
Yeah, we call it the visiting team we were playing against. That guy was a young guy from Trinity. Every time he flying in there like crazy. Either hire me for Southeast as a hitman, or I'd say either, but bring that guy in, because at least I know if I might get killed. I don't think that guy's so crazy. But you kind of vaguely remember that guy from last year, maybe a little bit.
Yeah, I remember the good old Turkey Bowl.
Ooh, you remember that kid? That kid, he was crazy last year. I talked to somebody about that the other day. If he comes back this year, everybody's looking around and go, oh, brother, that dude's crazy.
And speaking of which, I can't believe that we're only in the second round and the Turkey Bowl is coming up.
Thanksgiving's already here, yeah.
Next
1 week.
week.
From today. Oh, how crazy it is. So Southeast, they got the huge overtime victory. Now they're playing Grimsley next, and Southeast has got to be thinking, I think we're probably better off if we run the ball, I think. We thought the same thing about Western Guilford. Western Guilford kind of came in a couple of those short passes and got some yardage off of those. Short passes turned it into a run and got some yardage. Didn't have a lot of success running the ball because Timothy Baker maybe 12 carries, 11 yards. Whew, rough.
Not much at all.
He got it maybe about 25, 30 yards through the air off those little short passes.
He got a little bit off those swing passes, but that Grimsley defense is just tough. It'll be interesting to see what Southeast does. I think in general, Western runs more gap-oriented zone approach. Southeast runs some more power and counter concepts in terms of their running. So they run a different style of, they do run the ball, but it's a different style. It's a different type of running in terms of what the Grimsley defensive front is going to have to prepare for. So, I mean, the last time they played, Grimsley held them to 3.9 yards per carry on the season. Southeast has averaged 5.2, which includes the time they played Grimsley.
How much per carry last time?
3.9.
So if they go for it on fourth down, they got a first down every time.
So there is a little bit of hope that maybe they could scratch and claw for some yardage. Not that it was prolific, but, that might be the little glimmer of hope that it gives Southeast. It is maybe a little bit of a different running style than what Grimsley has seen from other teams they play, and it is different than what Western brings.
And as the season's rolled on, Southeast has gone more, kind of got away. The first part, it was like Tariq McLaughlin almost exclusively is right. Now they got more toward Ian McKinnon. McKinnon now carried the ball quite a bit more. He had 4 touchdowns in that Reagan game. If that guy could get half that tomorrow night, hey, I'll take that and go with it. If you give me 2 touchdowns, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the way I've seen it, McLaughlin's been a little bit more thunder and McKinnon a little bit more lightning. A little bit more bang for your buck in terms of carries and explosive plays. I know covering them against Western, that was several weeks ago, obviously, but he had a couple big runs in that game, and he also plays linebacker on that team, so he's a guy that you'll see playing both ways and hustling for that Falcons unit. And Earl Bates isn't afraid to have some two-way players. I don't know if that's kind of his roots, playing some smaller school football as well, but he ain't afraid to put a guy if he believes in somebody.
He's got another guy playing a lot too, that both ways. I like this guy's name too, Kingston Davenport. Good evening, Mr. Kingston Davenport. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the program. Anyway, he's doing pretty well both ways. Back to that Western Guilford game, if I remember correctly, that night McLaughlin did not play, so McKinnon had to be the back that night.
That is correct.
Yeah,
that is correct.
Yeah.
That is correct.
And then Caleb Jackson came on. He's now become another guy who can kick you a couple of yards in.
Yeah, a little bit of a bigger bruiser, yeah.
And he's also another two-way player.
He plays linebacker too, yeah.
Ooh, yeah. Plus, I like the running chances for Alexander Marsh. Marsh may be a better runner than Caleb Moore from Western Guilford. Moore, not a bad runner at all, pretty good runner, but I think Marsh may be a better runner because I think he probably gets more carries. More chances.
It could be interesting. I think they are. I think in terms of what they bring, they might be similar. I think if I had to say, I might say that Marsh is actually probably more of a pocket guy from a natural standpoint. I think he's a little bit more. I think with Moore, you kind of open it up, have him wiggle a little bit more. I think in Southeast offense, there isn't as much rollout. There isn't as much movement in terms of the line shifting. I feel like it's a little bit more of a conventional pocket passing attack for Marsh, even though if he does have a hole, he can tuck it. So he might be a little bit more pass first from a mentality standpoint, but I think he's probably just as capable in terms of his athleticism, if that makes sense.
When you got Alexander Marsh, he tells people, say, please call me Marsh, don't call me Mashed. I don't know what you call Mashed. I don't want that name on me at all. Don't hang that name on me now. But Grimsley, last week, boy, talk about a game, but he only played half a game, would be the quarterback last week. He had a heck of a game. Faced on Brandon first half, 240 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 rushing. Didn't miss hardly any of his passes, and that Cayenne Battle guy got hot. And it wasn't long. Let him go long. It was like nice intermediate passes. And that the left side, they use that left sideline really well. But I mean, you look at Battle, you look at those other receivers out there. Cato came, he was a number 2 receiver last week. But a lot of guys got involved in that offense. That's receiving for them.
Yeah, I mean, you look at, Cato has been the leading receiver.
Top dog.
That first game back against Western, they didn't use him as much.
But the other guy was that guy, Patrick Carter, that came from Rags. He got involved.
Ragsdale
number
transfer,
20.
yeah.
He did very well last week.
Yeah, they used him a good bit. Battle, I think he's always had some good speed, and he's been used on their kick return unit. So I think you always kind of knew he was there in the back of your mind. Hudson Cooper's been injured. They still don't expect him to come back for at least another couple weeks. Obviously, with the playoffs hinging whether they keep winning or not, but I was told a few weeks-ish after the Western game with him. So Cato just coming back, grooming him, Battle. And we'll look to see DJ Howerton. He's a tight end that I wouldn't say is used a lot in the passing game, but he has been used in important moments. He's an effective pass catcher, even if he's used more as a blocker from a schematic standpoint.
He's a big play guy, so he has a big plays for them. You think about tomorrow night, going back to Earl Bates. Earl Bates has been a coach who's had outstanding playoff road wins and big upset wins. He was at Moorhead, Southern Guilford, Northeast Guilford, now at Southeast Guilford. I mean, he's kind of done that wherever he's been. So you hope he got the one. You hope he's got one more in him. If you're Southeast going to Grimsley tomorrow night, got another road trip up the highway, up the street, get one more.
I'd have to go through the track record on the road wins, but if he pulls this one off, it would be very hard for me to believe that this doesn't rank highest among the most daunting tests that he's had on the road, considering Grimsley's undefeated record, being at home, and even though I guess this isn't a quote-unquote conference game, they have not lost to a conference opponent in a long time. And, even though playoffs, don't count toward that, but just from a standpoint of Southeast being a Metro 4A team, Grimsley has owned that turf at Jameson. And
how many home games they lost lately? If they lost at home in the past couple of years, it's been a while since they lost at home, I believe.
So I've been here for 2 years.
Yeah.
This year they have not, obviously. Last year they won all their games at home. They didn't lose a game until they went on the road to Weddington. Mm-hmm. Let's see. The year before that was the year that they were undefeated, but they had the title vacated or whatever.
Yeah, got beat in the championship
New
game.
Bern,
Yeah.
whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't lose that year either. That would have been a neutral game anyway,
right.
Even if you count that.
Yeah, we wouldn't count that as a home game. Yeah, so they haven't lost at home at least in the past 3 years.
It's been, I guess going back on that time clock, that's 3 years.
Maybe 23, 22, 20, 23, 22, and I'll say 24, 23, 22, so 21. That's close to the year when they won the title, too, getting close when they won the championship that 1 year.
So in 2022.
Yeah, one year had the spring season, too. Yeah, that was a shortened season when they won the title.
When they won the state championship. So,
it's been a long time
since that home record has been pretty stout in recent memory.
And but if I'm Earl Bates, I mean, how you talk about you use that word, I want to bring it back, the daunting task. But gosh, I'm thinking, man, I love to be in this situation, just a chance to, get on that screen and look this thing over, review this film, just prepare for this game, just have a chance to go after these guys. Let's go get these guys. We love the challenge. This is fun right now. This has got to be fun.
I haven't seen it in action, but I have been told from people around the area that Bates is one of the best in terms of game planning, having his team prepared, scouting the opposition. And like you said, he's been at this for a long time. He's had a couple program turnarounds, and last year they had a very young team. They came back. I think the two of us both anticipated that they'd be a lot better, and I think they have been, they lost this game 49-7.
Yeah.
we'll see how much of a gap has been closed. Grimsley last week against Western showed me that they weren't going to take a team lightly, even though they beat them by a lot. So I don't think Grimsley's going to lay down in this game, even though they beat them earlier in the season. So Southeast's going to have to come ready, and they might even have to have some gadget plays, truth be told.
Yep, they scored 1 touchdown against Grimsley during the season. You got to think, we got to score 2 or 3 this time. We scored 1. We proved we could score. Let's score 2 or 3, get those going that way. And I bet you, we talk about last year, Southeast wasn't even the playoffs last year, right? They didn't make the playoffs
That's
last year.
correct.
So
they did have a long streak before that. But
So to make it this year, be back in and be in the second round, you got to be thinking, this is good. Let's keep this thing going. If we can, let's go get these guys. I'd like to be on the bus. And we talked about this last week. I'd like to jump on the bus with those guys. They get on the board down at Forest Oaks at their school, hop on the bus, ride with them up there, see what that bus ride up there is like. I don't think I want to be on the bus ride back, just to be honest with you, but the bus ride up would be fun. How about that ride out to Northern Guilford at Spencer Dixon Road last week when Northern Guilford wins that game 21-20, and you got Kevin Willoughby at quarterback. His first start, I think, this season, comes out those for 150 yards, 2 touchdowns. You talk about a backup quarterback stepping in and getting the job done. That guy got the job done, man. Willoughby was a hard worker.
We thought that game could be pretty tough. No Kemp. Cabarrus, I think we thought maybe they could have been a little bit better than their seeding. I think, to get out of there with a win for Northern, I think it's got to help their confidence a little bit. I think sometimes those close games, even though you might think a little bit, well, maybe we should have beat that team by more or whatever, sometimes when you get out of one, a close one like that, it sort of in a weird way gives you confidence because you kind of think, well, we got past that,
Right.
And so I think without Kemp that 1 week, maybe it kind of settles them down a little bit and they kind of think to themselves, well, we can do this without Kemp. Not that they'd like to be without Kemp, but I think it did kind of validate, hey, we've got a chance to win a game or 2 without him, and we'll see what happens this next week.
Yeah, to prove that to themselves and the coaching staff and those around them, that's a big thing. You got that verification, justification. We can win. We're going forward, and they stopped the running game to some degree last week. Stopped some of Northern's running game, but then again, Northern comes through with a passing game because Willoughby throwing the ball quite well, 2 touchdown passes, and you got Reggie King getting involved. You got Grayson Counts getting involved. You got C.J. Morrison getting involved. Those guys getting involved. You got the big tight end getting involved. So he's found those receivers, and hey, now they got to watch them both ways. And now the running game should be better tomorrow night because the other team can't take that passing game for granted. They're playing Marvin Ridge, comes in 5-6. Another team you can't take too lightly. Their record's 5-6. They're a 24 seed. So hey, watch out for those guys.
Yeah, Marvin Ridge, they might be 5-6, but I got to think that their schedule, they're probably better than a lot of 5-6 teams out there. You never know. I mean, Northern has had a wacky schedule where they've shown up in big games, but they've also squeaked by a couple teams that we didn't think, i.e. they barely beat Page, i.e. they barely beat Southeast. I know that was in a torrential downpour hurricane or whatever. But I'm just saying,
6 weeks ago tonight,
it
man.
did happen.
You bring that up, I just feel wet all over, man, because that rainy night, man, inside that tent and the rain's blowing in. How we got that game in, the good Lord knows, more power to him above. But hey, like you say, there's been some close games for Northern Guilford. But
they've won a bunch of close. I mean, Northwest was only a touchdown affair.
Yeah.
Not that they're a slouch of an opponent,
game,
but
based upon the circumstance, condition going, I think that's what surprised people the most, how close that game was. But in the end, a good team proves they can win under some adversity. They pulled that game out with that great field goal, 2.6 seconds left in the game. Gordado kicks it through for the field goal when he missed an extra point early. They would have won the game. They would have won the game already in regulation, but he missed that PAT early because I think it was based upon a bad step and the hole didn't get down correctly. He missed that, but they made the field goal. They won the game. So Northern's in pretty good shape, I think, going in. But boy, they got to win that game. And then we go from Northern to Northwest Guilford, going to Mooresville. Mooresville, man, up the road. Got a pretty good road trip. But Northwest, like Northern was coming in with a running game. They got stopped some last week, but they went to the pass. But Northwest, their running game clicked last week. The guy Nathan Cox, about 120 yards, 122 rush. I think about 122. Anyway, you go to those guys again because I think Northwest running game, you got to stick it to them. You got to come back with it again. Plus, a big boost last week at that running game with the wide receiver, Rakim Hammock, had about 6 carries, about 60. Hey, I give him 12 carries this week. You got me. You got me 60 yards with give me. Go ahead and give me 12 carries. Give me 120 yards. Let's get that guy the ball. So because the passing game was not working, let's find a way to get that ball in that guy's hands. Handoff, in around, jet sweeps. Just not too many gadgets. Gadgets in the playoffs get a little scary, but get that ball in Hammock's hands. Send it to Cox. Run that ball all night long.
I know Northwest, they prefer a balanced offense. You know, they don't like to divert from the run game. So when they're at their best, I think it is a nice combination of both. Obviously, Hammock is, he's their game breaker. The truth is that when the ball is in his hands, he is one of the most elusive guys in this conference, in this area when you put the ball in his hands. And so obviously you want to do that. I looked at this game and I really like this matchup. Mooresville's been very successful passing the football. Northwest, the best position group on their football team, might be their secondary when you think about Austin Jackson and Herb McNeil, two safeties.
How many interceptions did Herb? I started looking up. How many's he got this year?
He has 8.
He's got a ton.
He's got 8. He's got 8 this season.
He just keeps getting them. That's good. Very, very good.
And Austin Jackson, he's got 112 tackles. He's a headhunter, and he doesn't refuse contact from when I've seen that boy play.
What I read too, Mooresville pretty good running team also, as well as a good passing team.
They've had a pretty well-oiled machine, and their only loss this year was to Reagan in week 2. But remember, at that time, Reagan had their quarterback, and so
different Reagan team.
So in a way, that barely losing to Reagan at that time looks a little bit different than the Reagan the rest of the year. Reagan did carry themselves pretty well, but you have to think that with an NC State recruit on your side that you're a little bit better. And so this Mooresville team, they're going to be good, I think.
Mooresville came to Grimsley for the scrimmage back in August, and mid-August. They came over to Grimsley early August. Anyway, they came in there, and it was like Grimsley, first or second play of the game. Mitchell Summers, about a 60-yard touchdown. That was it. 1 touchdown, 6 points in the game, and they played 6-0 to Grimsley. It was a scrimmage of all things, but still, they played Grimsley tough. Grimsley, the best team in the West right now. Played them tough, 6-0 game that day. So, hey, Mooresville's for real. But Northwest Guilford, Coach Rusevich, Chris Rusevich at Guilford College had the old Northwest Guilford quarterback, Matt Pulaski. Pulaski broke all kinds of passing records. He loved to pass that ball because he had a quarterback to throw at Guilford College when he's coaching there. Now he's at Northwest Guilford. Anders Mitchell not throwing quite well last week, had a bad week, had a tough week. But now you've got that running game. So I think now Rusevich says, well, let's go with this run. Let's just carry this all the way. Let's carry it again this week.
I think, what they want to do, they probably want to slow this game down. Mooresville has been very proficient passing the ball. They've got some weapons on their side. They've got a 6'3" receiver, Dominic Morin, who's got 993 yards and 10 touchdowns so far this year. So he's been pretty effective, and so I think if they can key on that guy, obviously Mooresville can still run the ball a little bit, but if they can eliminate the explosive pass plays, keep things in front of them, rely on that defense, and like you said, if they can run the ball effectively, they can manage this game, prevent it from becoming a track meet game or whatever. And, when you're on the road, they've got to travel about, an hour and a half for this football game. When you're on the road and, some of those things happen, you want to settle things down and kind of get the mental psyche on your side as well.
And you think about it, you got that good kicker too, Nolan Hageman. Hageman's a very good field goal kicker. He's come with some big ones this year, so if they need him down the stretch, he could be there too. And they've got that Caleb Trogdon with their kickoffs, doing a heck of a job. Boy, last week too for Grimsley. That Hanmano kid, whatever his name was for Grimsley, he had every kickoff he had was a touchback last week, I think. No return chances off for Western go for those kickoffs. The kicker was doing so good for Grimsley, he never missed the end zone.
No, they were winning the field position battle, and Western wasn't moving it either. And so even with a pretty solid punter, Grimsley was getting pretty good field position in that game, including the time when Faison, they started the Western 40, and he just took it on the first play for a touchdown run.
Straight up the middle, straight up the gut.
And at that point, it's just, it's tough to beat Grimsley when you give them the ball at a good spot. It's tough to stop them regardless, but if you give them at a good spot, it only helps them a little bit.
So we talked about Grimsley and Southeast, talked about Northern and Marvin Ridge, talked about Northwest Guilford and Mooresville. What about this Dudley Panther team against AC Reynolds tomorrow night? Dudley's at home against AC Reynolds. Dudley, some of the guys have been banged up. Talked to the assistant coach yesterday. He's telling me, as we all know, Newkirk missed that game against Eastern Guilford. Newkirk didn't play in that game. The quarterback, Crawford, went out and didn't play the second half. He's been kind of banged up. And I think also Bartley's had a couple nicks and bruises, and you've had Neely's been popped a little bit. So they've had, but Dudley should be ready to roll with this game, I would think. Overall, these guys are playoff time, and AC Reynolds beat them here back about 2008, 2009, knocked them out of the playoffs. Winner of that game would have went to the championship game. So Dudley's got a little history there with AC Reynolds, and Dudley should be ready to roll tomorrow night. Wouldn't you think? Dudley, do you roll?
It's a 5-12. The biggest sample I have in terms of AC Reynolds and what they've done against teams that people might be somewhat familiar with. They played West Forsyth pretty close, although that was week 1. They played East Forsyth in the non-conference as well and did not fare so well. So I think Dudley is on par with those teams. I think Dudley, it's very difficult to compare a team from very early in the season versus now, but I gotta give Dudley a boost being at home. The way that they've been so dominant stopping the run with AC Reynolds. I mean, their strength is Max Guest, an Appalachian State recruit at running back.
How is he doing? I heard he'd been injured earlier this season. Is he full steam now, from what you hear?
He's had some bumps, but he's rushed for over 800 yards in 9 games of action. From what I saw, I mean, I don't have a week-to-week report,
Right.
but from what I saw, he had over 800 yards.
And if we look back, he did play last week, correct?
And
What you saw?
and so he's been carrying it, and I believe so. I'd have to.
If he played
confirm
last week,
that
then
for
he's ready this
sure,
week for sure. If he's anywhere near healthy at all, he's ready to go too. He has to
But
be ready to
they've,
go. And Dudley's quarterback
that's kinda
Crawford
what they
last week, I
got.
think it was 11 of 11 passings. He had a perfect game passing against
Very,
Asheville.
very
so
good, yeah.
very solid game. And Jeffries is a backup, so probably a better runner. But both those guys together combined had one whale of a season. You got all your receivers. Everybody receiving has got about 700 yards. All the top 3 plus Antonio Lee's right behind him, about 500 yards. You got a lot of good receivers on that team.
I think I gotta favor Dudley in this game, and I gotta say that with Dudley, I think we have 4 games in this area. 4 games involving area teams that are left. In terms of my confidence meter, if I had to rank them from a confidence standpoint, I'm gonna say Dudley is the game that I feel the most confident about in terms of Guilford. I would say Grimsley over Southeast, I feel pretty good. But in terms of those out-of-towner matchups, I think I feel most confident Dudley over AC, other than Northwest and Northern. I think those 2 games could be grinders. I think in terms of these out-of-town opponents, I feel really good about Dudley.
Let's do one more in for you here. What about this game with West Forsyth, East Forsyth rematch? They just played a couple weeks ago, and East won by less than a touchdown. Came in the last minute of the game. What about this matchup? Second meeting between 2 teams. What is it going to be like? You expect sameness, closeness again, same type thing? Close?
I mean, it's a rivalry. You're going to anticipate the intensity. You're going to anticipate the emotions. The last time they played, there was a lot of momentum swings. West, took a big lead early. East came back. Then West kind of mounted a late first half rally to go up 35-21 at the half. Then you saw another swing where East came back. I think for West, you have to control this game early like they did the first time. They did play really well defensively against Cuthbertson. Not that that team is the same as Bryce Baker and East Forsyth, but I got to believe that this game is probably not going to be as high scoring the second time. Most of the time when you see someone the first time, I think the defense is usually better off. I anticipate not necessarily a game where no one scores, but I don't think we're going to see two teams in the 40s this time. I think it's going to be a little bit more of a grinded out ball game, and I think you're going to see probably, a little bit less scoring just because I think the defense usually the second time around is better off a lot of times.
And a lot of big plays that first game, too. I think several very big plays. And we're calling this one the K-Ville or Thriller. It could be big in K-Ville tomorrow night with West Forsyth, East Forsyth.
Yeah, the K-Ville, K-Vegas, whatever they call it, good old Kernersville. And they love their football at East Forsyth. And there's going to be a crowd out there. The people from Clemens will come over, I guarantee it. It's going to be a fun environment there. And there aren't, in terms of Forsyth County, I mean, there aren't too many games to have your eye on, so you might have some people from other places going over there
exactly. That's the case.
because a lot of teams lost last week. Yep. So
Mount Tabor's out. Carver lost. Those guys all lost. So hey, you got those two teams left, kind of carry the load.
Reagan no longer, as we mentioned.
They could have been there too, but they got beat by that 1 point in Southeast Guilford.
So,
here's your picks. Your picks. What do you like about Grimsley Southeast? I know you're taking Grimsley.
I'm gonna pick Grimsley. I think you have to.
Northern Guilford, Marvin Ridge. I think you're leaning toward Northern Guilford.
I'm gonna lean toward Northern, but I gotta tell you, it could be a tough one.
Northwest at Mooresville. I think you're leaning toward Mooresville.
I think I'm gonna lean toward Mooresville.
I think I'll take Northwest, just try to get the home team to win. Come on, Northwest, pull this game out.
I think I'm gonna lean toward Mooresville. I think I am, but.
How about Dudley at home against AC Reynolds? You got to be leaning toward Dudley.
I do lean toward Dudley. It's hard for me to pick against them. That defense is so good.
East Forsyth at home in Kernersville. You like East Forsyth?
I think I'm going to lean toward the home team. I think East maybe didn't have their best start in the last game. I anticipate that they'll have a little bit of a better mentality. I'm going to go East, but I don't think it'll be a blowout. I think it'll be a good game. What
you got in the paper tomorrow coming up for the games? Got a little preview tomorrow? Got some stuff coming up, anything going on?
We'll have some preview stuff. We'll also have a boys basketball season preview. I know we ran a girls edition a couple days ago. We've got the boys version coming out tomorrow as well. So hopefully it'll be a well-read edition tomorrow. I think it should be a good day for us.
And you'll be online with stuff tomorrow night. Your top performers of the games and the scores, all those things will be online at Greensboro.com.
Indeed, yeah. We'll have live updates from Grimsley and Southeast. We'll also have our scores and top performers up. Sometimes we don't get all the stats in that night, but they will be updated as the weekend rolls through. Also, I'll be at A&T and Elon on Saturday afternoon as well, so which is kind of a somewhat localish matchup with Elon not being too far away, just east of here. So I think it'll be a good weekend. I'm excited for it.
And I looked up a former Northwest Guilford player today, the inside player Megan Harkey, who was at Xavier. It transferred to Pepperdine. She's starting for Pepperdine right now. She had 11 points versus UCLA, so good to see Megan Harkey. She's about 6'5", 6'6", tall, lean kid out of Northwest. Thought, how's she doing? I looked her up today. She's doing well, so good to see those local kids leave here and do well at other schools when they go to college. Yeah, always good to see those things. Positive reports. Again, happy birthday to you from yesterday. Big birthday.
Thank you, Mr. Durham, for having me on always.
And we'll be ready to see you at tomorrow night. You'll be at the Southeast at Grimsley game. And all our people will be checking out Bryant Roche tomorrow night on Greensboro.com.
I appreciate you, Mr. Durham, always.
Always.